Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, is always going to hold a special place in my heart, as it was my very first Zelda game. However, you could say it is not the most beloved of all Zelda titles in the franchise. Well, today, Zelda 2 is the focus of the Facts and Secrets series. Now I'm going to have a look at some of the not so well known hidden facts and secrets for Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Well, if you enjoyed this video and found it useful, hit that subscribe button down below for even more Zelda content, and also let me know what other Zelda games you want to see covered in the Facts and Secrets series. Well, many games in the Zelda franchise have gone on to be defining games of a generation, system sellers, and genre-defining entries. Well, Zelda 2 wasn't one of these titles, rather it was an experiment following on from the Legend of Zelda on the NES. Nintendo flipped the model on its head and replaced the top-down exploration and combat with the now infamous side-scrolling action platformer combined with an RPG that became Zelda 2. Okay, that is the introduction out of the way. Let's dive into the facts and the secrets about Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Well, first of all, we've got a familiar laugh. So on the game over screen, Ganon is heard laughing. However, that laugh may seem familiar. Well, the sound effect for Ganon's laugh actually comes from Punch-Out on the NES. It's a modified version of Soda Popinski's laugh after he wins a boxing match. Well, next up we got Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy Easter eggs. So in the Japanese version of Zelda 2, the grave in Saria Town says the hero Lotto rests here. Well, Lotto is a reference to the hero in Dragon's Quest. The Square Enix famously returned the favour in Final Fantasy with a grave reading, "Here lies Link," in the town of Elfheim. Now, the American release didn't have this in there and was changed to "Here lies Edric." However, for ports of the game later on to the Game Boy Advance, Square Enix put the reference back in. Well, next up we got game delays. So Zelda 2 was released in America in October 1988. However, the game was supposed to release in February 1988. Well, the delay was due to a chip shortage, and that is not too unfamiliar from Nintendo. And also this was referenced in the July edition of Nintendo Fan Club, and that was the magazine that came before Nintendo Power. So they said all the fun of The Legend of Zelda continues in Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. But when? Well, as soon as we can get some more computer chips. There's been a shortage, but we've used the waiting time well by making Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link even more exacting, even more challenging, and it is coming this fall. Well, next up we've got error and bugs. So there's a well-known NPC in Ruto Town who introduces himself as "I am Error." There's also a similar NPC in Saria Town called Bagu. Bagu is actually the Japanese word for bug, and this is likely a nod from the developers about finding errors and bugs in the code. Well, next up we've got new ideas. So Zelda 2 introduced a number of new ideas into the franchise, although many of them haven't continued in future Zelda games. So we got the live system that was added, I would imagine because it was a 2D side-scrolling nature of Zelda 2. But also, Zelda 2 doesn't have The Legend of Zelda in the title. The full title is simply Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, and that is because maybe The Legend of Zelda, The Adventure of Link is a bit of a mouthful. Well, next up we've got town names. The names of the towns in the game will be familiar to long-term Zelda fans. That's because they're the name of the sages in Ocarina of Time for the N64. You've got Rauru, Ruto, Saria, Mido, Naboru, and Darunia. There is one exception, so Mido, may have been planned as a sage for Ocarina of Time, but maybe they got cut from the final game. Zelda 2 town names led to the sage names in Ocarina. However, in the timeline it's the other way round. Ocarina of Time chronologically comes first, which led to the people of Zelda 2's Hyrule naming the towns after the sages. Also want to shout out to Cliffjumper1984, who also mentioned this one when I put a shout out to the community gathering Zelda 2 facts. Well, next up we got No Kondo. So Koji Kondo, famous Nintendo composer, scored many Legend of Zelda games. However, he didn't compose Zelda 2. Akito Nakasuka, who scored Ice Climbers, Well, they did the composing work for Zelda II, The Adventure of Link. Well, next up we got no keys required, so it's possible to get through locked doors with magic rather than keys in Zelda 2. Link does need the fairy transformation spell first, but once you get that you can actually fly through the keyholes as a fairy. There's a good technique in dungeons if they start to get a little bit frustrating, or if you want to speedrun the game. Well, next up we got game changes, so there were loads of changes from the original Japanese release to the North American release. For example, many of the bosses were changed in the dungeons, and also the order that the bosses appeared in the game. So Helmet Head was the boss of the 5th dungeon in Japan, but was moved up to the 2nd dungeon in North America, and a new boss was introduced in the 5th dungeon called Gooma. Very, very tough boss. He's the one who had a mace. Well, next up we got fast speedrun. So Zelda 2 is a very good game to speedrun. The any percent speedrun of the game can be completed in 14 minutes and 22 seconds. The current record holder at the time of making this is called Dude. Well, that is an incredible time and significantly shorter than the days it takes me to get through this game. Next up we got mini-maps. So the bottom left hand corner of the overworld has a miniaturized version of the map from The Legend of Zelda, and that reveals the entire first game takes place in one small part of the map for the second game. Also, shout out to Martin in the Triforce Times community who pointed out this fact as well. Next up we got battle music. So the Famicom disc system, that uses different battle music than the cartridge release on the NES. We don't really know why this change took place, however that song was eventually remixed and used as the mini-boss theme in the Minish Cap. Well, next up we got Link Speak. So Link is very famous for being mute. However, in Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link, our hero speaks. He says, "I found a mirror under the table in one town." This isn't the case in the Japanese version of the game. It just says Link found a mirror under the table rather than him saying it himself. Well, finally then we got flashing. So when Zelda 2 was released on the Virtual Console, the flashing colours that played during the death animation were removed and replaced with a solid red background. This is because the flashing colours can have serious health implications for those sensitive to flashing colours, so a safer, solid colour was implemented. Well, let's check out some other facts that the Triforce Times community came forward with for Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link, and first of all we've got game essays. So the Master Key works on all dungeons. You can technically just get the item in each dungeon without finishing it, all the way up to where you have to get the Master Key, and then go back through and beat all the bosses without needing to find any more keys. Also, Christoph Kammer says there's a really good remake by Hoverbat. I did have a look at this. I would go and find out. There's a really good YouTube video which you can find. Just type in Zelda 2 Remake Hoverbat into YouTube, and I'll also link it down in the description down below. Looks really, really good, and I really, really want to play that game. So thank you, Christoph. Really appreciate your comment. Well, Cliffjumper 1984 was back and said the jumping crouching attack does wonders. That is absolutely correct, it does. And Andrew and Amelia says, fun fact, The Adventure of Link is actually one of the few, if not the only Legend of Zelda game that is so stupidly difficult I've given up every time I tried it. Well, Andrew and Amelia, thank you for that fact. I didn't know that one, but I do understand. I've certainly had a hard time playing through Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link. Also, FlinkGod64 says, did you know The Adventure of Link is a Zelda game? Thank you, FlinkGod, that is very, very good. And Johan Anderson says it's the only Zelda game I haven't finished. Johan, really, really recommend you go back and play it. I think it's really, really good. And Gabora, good friend of the channel, says it's really underrated and actually a great game. Gabora, definitely have to agree with you there. I think it is fantastic. I do look back on it with rose-tinted glasses, given it was my first Zelda game. I went back and played through it very recently, and I really, really enjoyed it. And once again, I hope we see a remake of this game. I think it'd be a fantastic mashup between a Zelda game and a Souls-like game. I think it'd be really, really good. But let me know in the comments what you think about these Zelda 2 facts and secrets. But that is it today for the things that you may not know about Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link and these facts and secrets. And as always, thank you so much for watching or for listening. Don't forget you can hit that subscribe button down below for even more Legend of Zelda content here on Triforce Times. You can also like the video and share the video too, that would really help me out here on the channel. Well, thanks again, I'll see you soon.